Using AI right now, um, it kind of feels a bit like walking up to a sketchy vending machine.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, you punch in your prompt, you hit this heavy plastic button, and you just sort of hope a decent candy bar drops
But
out.
half the time it gets stuck.
Right, or it spits out like a bag of stale, generic potato chips that you didn't even want. You have zero relationship with this machine. I mean, it doesn't remember that yesterday you wanted chocolate, not
No
chips.
context at all.
Exactly. But today we're doing a deep dive into this comprehensive guide, Claude AI for digital marketing. And it completely flips that whole transactional dynamic on its head.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because instead of that transactional vending machine, Claude operates on something called contextual memory.
Right.
The guide we're looking at today from Anthropic, it positions this tool less like a random text generator
Yeah.
and much more like an actual collaborative partner sitting right across the desk from you.
Which is exactly what we need, because if you're out there listening and you work in digital marketing, the demands are just crushing.
Oh, yeah. Never ending.
You're expected to be like a copywriter, a data analyst, an SEO expert, all at the same time. So if you're a curious learner trying to master these skills without drowning in the chaos, this deep dive is absolutely for you.
We really want to figure out how to use this tool practically without losing your brand's human touch.
Okay, let's unpack this contextual memory thing. How does that actually stop the machine from dispensing those stale potato chips?
Well, it basically comes down to how the underlying model processes information during a single session. Like most early AI tools, they suffered from what we could call amnesia.
Ah, right. Every prompt is a blank slate.
Exactly. Every single time you hit enter, it forgot who you were. But Claude, on the other hand, it maintains this active context window,
Meaning what, practically?
meaning as you converse with it, it is continuously analyzing the entire history of that specific chat thread. So it remembers all the little nuances you established in prompt 1, and it actually applies them to prompt 20.
Okay, so it's actively learning the boundaries of whatever specific project you're working on in that moment.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. And this fundamentally changes the most time-consuming task in marketing, which is obviously content creation.
Okay, but here's where I usually tap out with AI-generated content. Like I read one paragraph of a blog post, I see the word delve or some just bizarrely robotic sentence structure, and I immediately know a machine wrote it.
Oh, the classic AI voice.
Right. So if I use this for my business, won't my audience, spot it instantly?
Well, they absolutely will if you treat it like a search engine.
Okay, explain that.
So the source material draws a very hard line between generic prompts and contextual prompts. If you just open Claude and type, write a blog post about pastries, it just searches its massive generalized database.
And spits out the most mathematically average, boring article possible.
Precisely.
It's like handing a megaphone to some naive intern who just walked off the street and saying, hey, talk about food.
That is exactly what it is. So to fix this, the guide introduces what it calls the Portland Bakery framework.
Okay, the Portland Bakery. I like the sound of that.
Right. Instead of a broad command, you feed the AI highly restrictive parameters. So you say, I run a small family-owned bakery in Portland.
Okay, giving it an identity.
Exactly. Then you add, my customers are mostly busy parents who need quick breakfast options before school drop-off. Help me write a conversational blog post about 5-minute breakfast ideas using our specific pastries.
Wow. That's just a completely different assignment. You're giving it geographic location, a defined audience, and like a strict time parameter.
Yeah, and what you are technically doing there is biasing the neural network.
Biasing the network.
Yeah, by adding those specific constraints, you restrict its probabilistic pathways. It abandons all that generic internet jargon and it zeroes in on vocabulary associated with, busy parents and quick mornings.
That makes so much sense.
But what's fascinating here is that the real power multiplier the guide highlights isn't just writing that initial blog post. It's a concept called multi-channel content adaptation.
Wait, meaning taking that one Portland Bakery post and just splashing it everywhere?
Well, not just splashing it, adapting the structure.
Oh, okay.
Because Claude holds the context of the bakery and the busy parents in its memory. You can ask it to take that single blog post and instantly generate an entire week-long content calendar.
Okay, I have to push back on that, though.
Sure.
If I follow you on, say, LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok, and I see the exact same 5-minute pastry idea formatted slightly differently 3 days in a row, I'm going to get massive audience fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't cross-posting the same core idea risk annoying your most loyal followers?
It does if you are just syndicating the content,
Yeah.
literally copying and pasting the same text across platforms. But Claude's adaptation goes way deeper than that.
How so?
The guide suggests having it isolate entirely different angles for different platforms.
Yeah.
So for LinkedIn, it might extract the logistical angle, like a professional post about morning efficiency and meal prep.
Oh, I see.
And then for Instagram, it focuses entirely on the visual description to the pastries. And then maybe for a TikTok script, it drafts a 15-second, really high-energy hook just about surviving the school run.
Okay, I see the distinction there. You aren't repeating the text. You're fracturing one big idea into native pieces for each specific platform.
Exactly. It's the same core theme, just faceted differently.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's shift from broadcasting to the masses to talking to an individual.
Okay.
Because if it can adapt content like that, how does this scaling apply to one-on-one communication? Like, an email dropping right in someone's personal inbox.
Well, this is where we get into targeted personalization. In traditional marketing, scaling usually means you just blast a generic message to 10,000 people, right?
Because you physically can't write 10,000 customized notes.
Exactly. But the guide details how Claude handles email marketing and chatbots and ad copy by stepping into highly specific personas.
It's like having a master copywriter who can instantly split their brain into 10 different target demographics.
Yeah. The mechanism is super similar to the bakery example, but applied to the recipient rather than the sender.
Okay, give me an example of that.
The text gives this great example of a fitness newsletter prompt. You don't just ask for a generic welcome email. You say, write a welcome email for my fitness newsletter. My audience consists of women in their 30s who are busy with corporate jobs and family, but want to prioritize their health without extreme dieting.
Oh, that's so specific. The busy 30-something mom wants to feel seen. She doesn't want an email that sounds like it was written for a 20-year-old bodybuilder.
Exactly. It completely changes the tone. And this capability applies directly to ad copy as well, specifically for A/B testing on platforms like Google or Facebook.
Oh, let's define A/B testing real quick for anyone not totally in the weeds on this.
Good call.
That's basically when you run two slightly different versions of an ad simultaneously, right? Like
Yep.
one with a funny headline and one with a serious headline, just to see which one gets more clicks.
That's it, exactly. It's
Huh.
incredibly effective. But writing 20 variations of an ad is just tedious work.
Soul-crushing, really.
Yeah. But with Claude, you can feed it your target audience, your specific offer, and just ask for 10 variations focusing on emotional appeals, and then 10 focusing on logical, price-driven appeals.
And it generates them in what, seconds?
Literally seconds.
But wait, here's a massive point of friction. The guide mentions this, and we definitely need to be transparent about it.
Yeah, the integration issue.
Right. Claude does not have direct integration with standard marketing tools. I can't just plug it into my MailChimp or my HubSpot or Facebook Ads Manager and let it run.
It's true. It's an isolated system right now.
And in a real-world marketing agency, friction is the ultimate enemy of adoption. If I have to manually copy, format, and upload 50 ad variations from a chat window into Facebook, I might just go back to my old, slower workflow just to save my sanity.
I hear that. And the source text acknowledges that exact bottleneck. It is a standalone workflow where you have to copy and paste. But the mathematical argument it makes is pretty compelling.
Let's hear it.
Basically, the ideation phase of marketing takes significantly longer than the execution phase. Like staring at a blinking cursor trying to invent 20 distinct psychological hooks for a Facebook ad. That might take a human copywriter 4 hours.
That's true.
But copying and pasting 20 generated hooks takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So the friction of the manual transfer is heavily outweighed by the acceleration of the creative process.
Okay, fair enough. I'll concede that solving writer's block is probably worth a few keyboard shortcuts.
It usually is.
But how do we ensure that across all these emails and ads and TikTok scripts, Claude doesn't lose our specific brand voice? It's generating so much volume. The tone has to drift eventually, right?
It absolutely will drift unless you anchor it.
Anchor it how?
The guide solves this with something called a brand guide document. You actually compile a single file containing your company's tone of voice, your core values, target audience pain points, and most importantly, 5 to 10 examples of past content that you consider absolutely perfect.
Wait, and I just upload that document directly into the chat?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You just attach it. And when you do, Claude parses the semantic patterns in that file.
Okay.
It actually weighs your specific vocabulary and your sentence structures heavier than its default training data. Essentially uses your past successes as the guardrails for its future outputs.
So it's not just guessing what I sound like, it's actively mimicking the syntax that I've already proven works. Okay, so say we've got hundreds of on-brand emails, blogs, and ad scripts sitting in a document. That's great. But if no one can actually find our website on Google, we've kind of just wasted our time.
Very true.
How does this tool help us solve the distribution and, the searchability problem?
Well, that brings us to the analytical side of Claude. It is a surprisingly robust tool for SEO, search engine optimization.
Right, figuring out the exact words people are typing into Google so we can rank higher.
Exactly. The guide highlights its ability to do long-tail keyword brainstorming.
Which are those highly specific multi-word search phrases, right?
Yeah, like best running shoes for flat feet under $100. They have lower search volume, but much higher conversion rates because the user's intent is just so clear.
Right, they know exactly what they want to buy.
And Claude is excellent at mapping out those nuanced search intents. You can also write your meta descriptions.
Oh, those are the little two-sentence snippets of text that show up under the blue link on a Google search results page, right?
Yes, and they are notoriously tricky to write because you have a really strict character limit. It's usually around 160 characters.
Oh, and if you go over, Google just cuts your sentence off.
Exactly, they chop it off. So you have to hook the reader and include your keyword within that tiny little box. Claude handles those strict constraints perfectly. But honestly, the most strategic SEO application mentioned in the text is something called content gap analysis.
Ooh, I love the sound of that. Walk me through the mechanics of a content gap analysis.
So you take a list of the broad content themes your competitors are currently ranking for. Say, the titles of their last 50 blog posts.
Okay, got it.
You paste that into Claude alongside the titles of your own last 50 posts. And you just ask it to categorize them all by topic clusters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it might notice that both you and your competitor talk heavily about, say, espresso machines. But your competitor has completely cornered the market on a subtopic like water filtration for coffee.
And you have 0 articles on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It mathematically identifies that semantic void between your strategy and theirs.
It spots the blind spots.
It really does.
But let me ask a logistical question about how it handles this kind of data,
Okay.
because I'm not a data scientist.
Most of us aren't.
Staring at raw spreadsheets of website traffic can be totally paralyzing. So how does Claude actually see my website metrics? Is it like pulling live data from my Google Analytics dashboard?
No, it cannot access live dashboards, and it does not connect to the internet to pull live traffic feeds.
Okay, so how does it get it?
The guide is very clear that this is a manual input process. You have to export your data, like a CSV file of your website traffic for the last month, and then paste that raw data or upload the spreadsheet directly into the chat.
So I just dump a massive wall of numbers into the prompt box. What happens then?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, I like to think of Claude in this scenario as a chemical reagent.
A chemical reaction.
Yeah, you pour in this raw, unstructured, noisy data, and Claude reacts with it. It separates the meaningless noise from the actual valuable trends so they float right to the surface. It translates complex metrics into plain English.
A chemical reagent. Okay, that makes sense. It's synthesizing the chaos.
Exactly. It can look at that spreadsheet and say, hey, your overall traffic is up 10%, but your bounce rate on mobile devices specifically spiked last Tuesday.
Wow.
And then it can provide executive summaries and recommend actionable next steps based on those hidden patterns. It completely democratizes data analysis for, say, a solo entrepreneur who can't afford a full-time data analyst.
I have to wave a massive red flag here, though.
Uh-oh, what is it?
If I'm betting my monthly ad budget on this AI's interpretation of my data, what about hallucinations?
Ah, yes.
We all know AI models confidently make things up sometimes. If it misinterprets a spreadsheet and tells me to double my ad spend on a failing campaign, that's catastrophic for a small business.
That is a critical point, and the guide issues a very strong warning about it. You cannot blindly trust its mathematical outputs.
Right.
While language models are getting much better at data analysis, they are inherently designed to predict the next logical word in a sequence. They are not designed to function as infallible calculators.
So you have to double check everything.
You must fact-check its claims. If it identifies a trend, you go back to your source data and verify it yourself. You use Claude to spot the pattern, but you use human judgment to verify the math before you spend a dime.
Okay, so the human is still the ultimate safety net, which actually brings up an interesting realization.
What's that?
If Claude's ability to write and analyze and strategize relies entirely on the parameters, the brand guides, and the data spreadsheets that I upload,
Yeah.
then the real bottleneck isn't the software at all, it's me. I am the one who has to learn how to talk to it.
You've hit on the core thesis of the entire guide. The true art of using this tool is mastering the prompt. It is not a search bar. It is a command console.
And the guide says the learning curve isn't terrible, right? Like a week or two of experimenting?
Generally, yes. But the difference between a novice and a master is understanding how to chain prompts together. The text gives a couple of great foundational examples.
Let's hear them.
Consider the sustainable fashion prompt. A novice just sits down and says, write Instagram posts for my clothing brand.
Right, super generic.
But master says, create 5 Instagram posts for a sustainable fashion brand targeting eco-conscious millennials. Focus the messaging exclusively on styling tips for versatile capsule wardrobe pieces.
Or the coffee shop example I mentioned. Write a casual Instagram post for my local coffee shop, targeting college students in the area. Highlight our newly renovated study space, the ample power outlets, and the free high-speed Wi-Fi.
Exactly. You're painting a highly specific picture for it. But the most crucial part of this process, and honestly where most people give up, is the iteration phase.
Right, the idea that's an ongoing conversation, not a one-and-done command.
Exactly. When it gives you that coffee shop post, it might sound a little too corporate. You don't just delete it and start over.
What do you do?
You reply to it and say, make this 20% more casual, use shorter sentences, and remove any emojis. The mechanism of feedback is what actually refines the neural pathway. Claude takes correction remarkably well.
And when you finally hit on a prompt that works perfectly, like, it nails the tone, the length, the formatting, the source suggests doing something called building a prompt library.
Yes, a literal master document of your most successful, proven inputs.
Which means you never have to reinvent the wheel. If you need a new product description, you just go to your library, copy your master prompt, paste it in, and change the product name.
It saves so much time.
So what does this all mean? To me, this fundamentally shifts how we should think about the tool. You aren't just using a piece of software, you are literally managing a digital employee.
That's a great analogy.
Writing a prompt for Claude is exactly like writing a highly detailed creative brief for an expensive ad agency. You wouldn't walk into some fancy Madison Avenue agency, hand them a sticky note that says, "Sell my shoes," and expect a brilliant campaign.
They'd lash you out of the room.
Right. You give them the demographics, the customer pain points, the tone guidelines, and all the constraints.
That is the perfect mental model, and because you manage it like a junior employee, it actually functions as a learning partner for you too.
How do you mean?
Well, if you ask Claude to write an SEO meta description, you can add a sentence to your prompt saying, explain your reasoning for choosing these specific keywords.
Oh, that's brilliant. It shows its work.
It does. It will actually break down why it prioritized certain words based on search intent principles. So it helps you, the human user, become a sharper, more educated marketer through the very act of collaborating with it.
I really love that. But before we get completely swept away by this utopian vision of managing our genius digital interns, let's do a reality check.
Always a good idea.
We've talked about the lack of direct software integration and the constant need to fact-check hallucinations. What are the other real-world logistics and costs associated with using this today? Like, is this completely pricing out the small business owner?
Actually, the accessibility is one of its absolute strongest features. The guide explicitly states that Anthropic offers a highly capable free tier of Claude.
Wait, really? Free?
Yep, for many solo digital marketers or small local businesses doing just, basic content creation, the free version is entirely sufficient.
That's incredible. But what if you're an agency running like 50 client accounts?
For power users who need higher usage limits or priority access during peak hours and access to the most advanced underlying models, there's a paid tier. And it's typically around $20 a month.
$20.
Yeah. When you contrast a $20 monthly subscription against the cost of hiring dedicated freelance copywriters or SEO consultants or a full-service marketing agency, the cost effectiveness is just staggering. It allows a 2-person startup to generate the content volume of a 20-person enterprise.
Which naturally leads to the elephant in the room. And it's the question I'm sure every marketer listening is quietly asking themselves right now.
Let's hear it.
If Claude can write our blogs and structure our ad campaigns and analyze our competitors' content gaps and translate our data spreadsheets all for $20 a month, what exactly are the humans supposed to do?
This raises an important question, and the guide addresses this existential dread head-on. Claude should not, and honestly cannot, replace the human marketer entirely.
Because it's still just a machine.
Exactly. The AI has no lived experience. It cannot sit down with a frustrated customer and exercise true empathy. It cannot invent a fundamentally new product category or forge a strategic partnership over a cup of coffee.
It can synthesize the data, but it can't feel the market.
Exactly. Its true purpose is to handle the repetitive, time-consuming execution phase. It drafts the 50 ad variations so that you have the mental energy to invent the core psychological hook.
Ah, I
It
see.
handles the volume, freeing the human to focus on deep strategy and authentic relationship building.
And that is such a vital takeaway to bring this all back to you, the listener. Whether you are that small bakery owner in Portland operating on a shoestring budget, or you're a stressed out agency director trying to scale your team's output, Claude isn't here to steal your job.
Not at all.
It's here to give you your time back. It offers lightning fast content creation. It breaks the paralysis of writer's block. And if you use the brand guide properly, it keeps your voice consistent across every channel.
It's a massive advantage.
But the absolute best marketing will always come from a deeply human understanding of your customer and a desire to create genuine value for them. Claude is just the amplifier for that understanding. It's not a sketchy vending machine. It's a partner.
I think that captures the essence of the guide perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've established that AI tools like Claude make perfectly structured, highly targeted content creation essentially free and instantly accessible to everyone.
Right. Any business in the world can now produce 100 flawless blog posts a week.
Which means content volume is no longer a competitive advantage.
No.
The playing field of production has been completely leveled.
Wow, yeah.
So the question becomes, in a future where everyone has an AI that can answer any marketing challenge perfectly, will the winners be the ones who create the most content, or the ones who learn to ask their AI the most uniquely human questions?